The United States Treasury has imposed financial sanctions on several individuals in South Africa, accusing them of recruiting people and raising money for the Islamic State group. The United States says 3 of the men supported the extremist group in Iraq and Syria. Another man accused of helping to move money and buy weapons for an IS branch in Mozambique. Now, 2 of the accused are South African nationals. Another is Ethiopian, and the 4th person is Tanzanian. Let's talk about this now with Willem Els. He's a senior training coordinator with the Institute of Security Studies. Willem, thanks so much for your time. What do we know about the allegations against these 4 people and what they are believed to have done?
Good evening to you. Yes, I think the Tulsi case that came to an end earlier this year actually indicated to us and gave us some good indication of what is going on the ground in South Africa. So we know that these groups are active in South Africa, and they are mainly busy with fundraising and also moving funds to these people. And those are also the allegations that are being made in this report by the American government.
I'm also reading a very interesting article in the Daily Maverick, and they're suggesting that these 4 people may also be involved in kidnappings within South Africa. And of course, we have seen a rise in kidnappings. I mean, is it too much conjecture, too much speculation to say could IS-linked groups be behind the rise in kidnappings?
It is very plausible because we know that the nexus between terrorism and organized crime is very big. We know that terrorists make use, or terrorist groups make use of organized crime syndicates and also organized crime methods in order to raise money for their activities. So that is very plausible, yes.
All right, so just talk to me a little bit about, so you said that very often they are rooted in criminal networks, so they will get money either through extortion, possibly kidnappings. Talk to me about how that money flows around the world and to the groups where they need it.
Yeah, it is very important to understand that these groups, in order for them to operate, in order for them to perpetrate their acts, they need money. They need money for logistics, they need money to live, they need money to move, etc., etc. So they then gather these sources of this money from different sources, as indicated here in South Africa, where you have various groups that now are gathering this money and then they send it to them. There are different ways of sending money or transferring money. We know that they would like to use methods that would minimize the possibility of them being detected or being traced. So we know that they make use of couriers, where these couriers will then fly or drive to these areas and deliver the money in person. We also know that they make use of these different money transfer systems that are available, that people in Africa use in order to transfer money back home if they are working in other countries, etc., etc. So, yeah, and then also in certain cases, there is a system, for instance, the Hawala system, that is being used by certain groups to transfer money to these type of groups.
It's interesting, the US Treasury in its release says Treasury is taking this action to disrupt and expose key ISIS supporters who exploit South Africa's financial system to facilitate funding for ISIS branches and networks across Africa. We've got a very sophisticated banking financial system here in South Africa. It's surprising, if it is indeed growing, as it seems to be, that these ISIS networks are growing within our country. What obligation is there on the part of South Africa's law enforcement authorities and also our banking sector to clamp down on these 4 individuals that are actually named and to actually try and assist the United States in their sanctioning of these 4?
Yeah, as we know, the South African government and also the agencies came under severe pressure because of recent reports, etc., etc. But we also must give credit. We know that in South Africa we have an institution that is called the Financial Intelligence Center, and that center is in gathering all these type of information. It's mandatory by law that banks must report transfers and certain transactions, and they gather all the intelligence that they then facilitate to the different law enforcement agencies with these investigations. So there they really cooperate really well. We know that they are hampered because of certain things. Intelligence is imperative when it comes to the investigation of and curbing of terrorism and terrorism cases. So that is a very good thing that is ongoing in South Africa. As you mentioned, our financial system is one of the best in Africa, if not the best, and that is obviously exploited by these groups in order to facilitate the transfer of these funds, not only in Africa, but also around the world.
It's interesting to note that at least one of the people that is mentioned by the U.S. Department of Treasury who helped organize and begin operations of a Durban, South Africa-based ISIS cell, he has since been arrested. I wanted to ask you, is the ISIS presence in South Africa growing? Has it got substantially larger in the last few years? And if so, why?
In the first place, yes, as I mentioned with the Tulsi case and the outcome, that gives us a clear indication that this group is very active in South Africa. We also had some other cases, like for instance the Kliprivier case, where people were arrested, and according to the comments by the then National Commissioner, that they are being linked to this ISIS group, as certain items were found on the scene. So that gives you an indication that these guys are there and working. But also, we, as you mentioned, that there was a group, or there is a group in the Durban area that were arrested after the attack on the Ottawa Mosque in Verulam. But we all also understand that due to challenges with the investigation and also the prosecution, that case was thrown out of court, and not because they maybe did not have a very good case against them, but maybe due to a lack or maybe political interference or other interference in this investigation. We understand that they are busy rebuilding the case and looking at ways to rectify. We also know that there were some other arrests where there were some complications with this group. So the fact that these groups have not been charged or not been found guilty in court does not mean that things are not really happening there. It is just a matter that it is now the opportunity for law enforcement as well as intelligence services to get their thing together and really come to the party with this to actually safeguard the community of South Africa against these people.
All right, so while there might not be a full success with prosecutions as yet, this U.S. Treasury decision to impose these financial sanctions means that their assets could be seized, their banking options are severely limited, I would imagine.
That is correct. The fact that the U.S. Treasury actually made these announcements, it can be seen in a good light, but also as positive that it puts some pressure on these people to be investigated from a South African perspective. We just fear that maybe it might also have curbed or maybe hampered some of the ongoing investigations that might be on the cards at the moment.
All right. Well, thank you so much for that explanation. Willem Els, he is a senior training coordinator with the Institute of Security Studies.